She's useless as a wife, worthless as a woman. I only keep her around because she's too dumb to know better.
Those were the words that froze her in place as she reached for her keys. She had only returned home for a moment, but the voices from the bedroom stopped her cold. Each insult was a dagger, each laugh a reminder that the man she trusted was tearing her apart behind closed doors. She stood there, her heart breaking, her breath caught in her chest, as the truth she never imagined echoed from the very room she once called her sanctuary. But sometimes the cruelty you overhear becomes the fire that changes everything. This is the story of a woman mocked, betrayed, and broken until she found the strength to rise from the shadows of her own home. And today, it is being retold by me. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. Emma had always been the careful one. Careful with her words. Careful with her choices. Careful with her heart. Her husband, Daniel, used to say that's what he loved about her. That she wasn't like other women. That she had standards. And Emma believed him. For 7 years of marriage, she believed every soft smile, every promise, every late-night whisper that he would never betray her. That morning had started like any other. Emma was rushing to get to her friend's place across town, running behind schedule as usual. She locked the door, hurried down the steps and slid into her car before realizing her keys were not in her purse. Not again, she muttered to herself, annoyed. She got out, marched back up the steps and pushed the front door open. She had left it unlocked without thinking, a habit Daniel always complained about. But before she could reach the table where she thought she left her keys, something stopped her. A sound, a voice. Daniel's voice. She froze. The bedroom door was cracked open just a little. His tone was sharp, laced with laughter.
She's useless as a wife, worthless as a woman. I only keep her around because she's too dumb to know better.
Emma's breath caught in her throat. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The words cut straight through her, leaving her legs weak. She gripped the wall to keep herself standing. And then she heard it. Another laugh. A woman's laugh. Emma's stomach dropped. It wasn't just Daniel. Daniel. The voice purred. You're so cruel. Emma knew that voice. She would have known it anywhere. It was Chloe. Her own sister. Emma's hand shook on the doorknob. Chloe's voice drifted through the crack again, smug and mocking. I told you she'd never keep a man. She acts like she's better than us, but you and I know the truth. She's boring, cold. Who could live with that? Daniel chuckled, low and satisfied. She's too self-righteous to see what's right in front of her. I married a shadow. But you, Chloe, you're alive. Emma's chest tightened. She pressed her hand over her mouth to stop a gasp. Her own husband. Her own sister. The laughter inside stung worse than a slap across the face. Emma felt heat rush to her cheeks, her stomach turning. Her body screamed at her to run, but her feet wouldn't move. Each word they spoke was another knife, carving into everything she thought she knew about love, about family. And then Chloe's words twisted the knife all the way in. She'll find out sooner or later, but what does it matter? She's already lost. Daniel, she doesn't deserve you. She never did. Emma's vision blurred with tears. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding like a drum in her ears. She had to stop this. She had to see their faces when the truth came out. Her hand, trembling but determined, pushed the door wide open. The scene seared itself into her memory. Daniel sitting casually on the edge of the bed, shirt halfway unbuttoned, his arm draped around Chloe, who was still in the silky dress Emma had seen her wearing last night. For a moment, no one moved. Emma's voice cracked as she spoke. What is this? Daniel didn't flinch. He didn't even look guilty. He just sighed, almost bored, as if he'd been waiting for this. "Finally," he said, leaning back. "Finally, you see it." "You're not wanted here." Emma Chloe smirked, resting her head on Daniel's shoulder like she belonged there. "Don't act so shocked, Emma. You always thought you were better than me. Always so perfect, so principled. But look at you now. Alone." Emma's knees went weak. She grabbed the doorframe, her whole body trembling. "Chloe, you're my sister." Chloe's smirk widened into a cruel smile. "And you're nothing." Emma turned her gaze to Daniel, begging, pleading for even a flicker of regret. "Daniel, after everything we've built? After everything I gave up for you?" He met her eyes coldly. "You gave me nothing. You're a shell, Emma, a burden. Chloe gives me what I need. You just exist, and I don't need you anymore." The words slammed into her like a hammer. She shook her head, whispering through tears. "You can't mean that." Daniel stood, towering over her, his voice hard as stone. "Leave the keys and get out." Emma's world spun. Just like that, her marriage, her family, her dignity tossed aside like trash. Chloe leaned against the pillows, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Goodbye, sister." Emma's breath came in ragged gasps. She felt her chest tighten, her vision blur. She clutched her purse to her chest as if it was the only thing keeping her alive, then turned and stumbled toward the door. Her feet felt like lead. Each step away from that bedroom was heavy, dragging, as though she were walking away from her entire life. By the time she reached the front door, her tears were falling freely. She yanked it open and stumbled into the daylight, blinded not just by the sun but by the sharp sting of betrayal. The keys clinked against the wooden table inside as she dropped them, leaving behind the home she once called safe. Emma's world was over, but the night was just beginning. Emma's hands shook as she walked down the street. Her purse strap cut into her shoulder, but she barely felt it. Her chest felt hollow, her legs unsteady, her mind a storm she couldn't escape. The same question kept repeating in her head, louder and louder with every step. How could they? Her husband, her sister, the two people she should have trusted most. She pulled her phone from her purse with trembling fingers, her eyes blurred with tears as she scrolled to her mother's number. Her thumb hovered over the screen for a moment before she pressed call. The line rang once, twice. Then Margaret's voice came through, calm, familiar, almost soothing. "Emma? What's wrong? Why are you calling in the middle of the day?" Emma's throat tightened. The words fought to come out. "Mom, I caught Daniel with Chloe in our bedroom. They were together." There was silence on the line. Emma waited for her mother's shock, her anger, her comfort. But what came next was nothing she expected. Margaret sighed. "Emma, stop. Don't make up stories." Emma's heart sank. "Stories?" "Mom, I saw them with my own eyes. I heard them. They've been laughing at me, mocking me." "Enough!" Margaret snapped, her voice sharp now. "Do you hear yourself? You're always so dramatic, always turning everything into a tragedy." Emma's knees buckled. She leaned against a lamppost, clutching her chest. "Mom, I'm not lying. Please, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Please, just let me come home tonight. Just for tonight." Her mother's reply was cold, each word like ice. "Emma, Chloe told me this might happen. She said you'd get jealous, that you'd accuse her of things because you couldn't keep your own husband happy. And now look, you're proving her right." Emma's mouth fell open. She told you?" "Mom, you believe her over me, your own daughter." Margaret's tone hardened. "Chloe is the real woman of this family. She's warm, she's devoted, she knows how to care for a man. You've always been too rigid, too stubborn, too principled, as if that makes you better than everyone else. Look where your principles got you, alone, calling me in tears." The words hit Emma harder than Daniel's did. Her sister's betrayal was cruel, But her mother's rejection crushed what little strength she had left. Tears streamed down her face. She tried one last time. "Please, Mum. I'm your daughter. I have nowhere else." But Margaret cut her off. "Stop embarrassing yourself, Emma. If you were a better wife, Daniel wouldn't be in Chloe's arms right now. You made your bed. Now lie in it." The line went dead. Emma stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring at her phone as if it had turned to stone in her hand. The city noises around her faded into nothing. All she could hear were her mother's words, circling in her head like vultures. "Stop embarrassing yourself. Chloe is the real woman of this family. You made your bed. Now lie in it." Emma sank down onto the curb, hugging her purse like a lifeline. People walked past, glancing at her, but no one stopped. She was invisible, broken in plain sight. She thought of Chloe's smirk, Daniel's cold eyes, her mother's cruel dismissal. Every door she thought she could run to had been slammed shut. For the first time in her life, Emma felt truly, utterly alone. She whispered to herself through shaky breaths, as though saying the words out loud might make them less painful. "They've taken everything. My home, my family, my dignity, everything." A car passed by, splashing water from a puddle onto her shoes, but Emma didn't move. She sat in the growing dusk, the weight of betrayal pressing down on her until she thought she would crumble into the pavement. She lifted her face to the sky, her tears mixing with the damp evening air. Her lips trembled as she whispered one last question into the night. "Why me?" But the silence that answered her was colder than anything Daniel, Chloe, or Margaret had said. Emma wrapped her arms around herself and closed her eyes. Tonight, there was no safe place left to run. And yet, somewhere deep inside the ashes of her heart, a tiny spark refused to die. She didn't know it yet. She couldn't feel it yet. But that spark would grow, and one day, the same voices that mocked her would choke on their own laughter. For now, though, Emma sat on the curb with nothing left but her broken heart and the cruel echo of her mother's voice. And that was how the night swallowed her, alone, exiled, and betrayed by the people she trusted most. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and how did this story speak to you? Emma had always believed that if everything else failed, her family would be there. She could lose a job, lose friends, even lose herself, but not them. They were her blood, her safety net. But when she walked up the front steps of her parents' house that night, with tears streaking her face and her purse clutched to her chest, she felt something inside her whisper that even this hope might be too fragile to hold on to. Her mother, Margaret, opened the door. The porch light cast a sharp glow over her face. She frowned before Emma could even speak. "What are you doing here?" Emma's lips trembled. "Mom, please, I don't have anywhere else. Daniel, he threw me out. And Chloe." Margaret's hand shot up, silencing her. Her eyes were cold, her lips pressed into a hard line. "Don't start that again. Chloe already told me your side of the story. She said you'd try to twist things, make her look bad. I warned you before, Emma. Your pride would ruin you." Emma's chest caved in. "Mum, I'm not lying. They've been together behind my back. I heard them. I saw them. Please, just let me stay here tonight. Just one night. I'll sleep on the couch. I can't be out there. Not tonight." But Margaret shook her head slowly. "No, you think you're better than everyone. Always so rigid, so principled. But look where those principles got you. Alone, begging on my doorstep. You drove your own husband away, Emma. Don't blame Chloe for being the woman you refuse to be." Emma felt the words burn into her skin. She glanced past her mother into the warm house she'd grown up in, hoping, praying for her father's voice, for a hand to reach out. But it was Chloe who appeared at the top of the stairs, wearing one of Emma's silk robes. The sight made Emma's stomach twist. Chloe leaned casually against the railing, her smile smug and lazy. "She's still here," she said to their mother. "I told you, she doesn't know when to quit." Emma's voice cracked. "Chloe, please! You're my sister. You can't do this to me." Chloe tilted her head. "Why not? You always thought you were above me. The perfect wife, the perfect daughter. Well, where did that get you? You're standing outside in the cold while I'm warm inside, with your husband." Margaret's voice was sharp, final. "Go, Emma. Don't come back here until you learn some humility." Emma's eyes filled again, her heart breaking into smaller pieces than she thought possible. She wanted to scream, to beg, to throw herself at their feet. But something inside her snapped instead. She turned and walked back down the steps, her body shaking, her vision blurred. She didn't look back. She spent the next few nights on the couch of an old friend, Lisa, who hesitated before even opening the door. "Emma?" Lisa's brows furrowed. "What happened to you?" Emma tried to explain, but her voice kept cracking, her sentences collapsing. She finally managed, "Daniel and Chloe. Together. He threw me out." Lisa's eyes widened. "With Chloe, your sister." Emma nodded, tears spilling again. Lisa pulled her inside, letting her drop onto the couch. For the first time in days, Emma felt a little warmth, but it was short-lived. Lisa's husband wasn't happy about the arrangement. He whispered, loudly in the kitchen, thinking Emma couldn't hear. "Why is she here?" Daniel said she lost her mind, accused Chloe of things that weren't true. "Do you really want people knowing she's staying here? It'll ruin our reputation." The words stung, even from the other room. Emma curled into herself on the couch, realizing the whispers were already spreading. By the end of the week, she saw it for herself. Former friends crossed the street to avoid her. Neighbors who used to smile at her now stared with pity, or worse, with smirks. Daniel had been busy. He filed for divorce, claiming she was mentally unstable, frigid, and controlling. He told anyone who would listen that he had endured years of her coldness until he finally found comfort in Chloe, and people believed him. Emma saw it on their faces, the whispers at the grocery store, the messages left unread, the invitations that stopped coming. She wasn't Emma the loyal wife anymore. She was Emma the failure. Meanwhile, Chloe wasted no time moving into Emma's marital home. She didn't just take the house, she took Emma's place. Emma saw the proof online. Chloe posted pictures on social media, smiling in Emma's kitchen, drinking coffee from Emma's favorite mug, lounging in Emma's living room. She even posed in Emma's clothes, flaunting them like trophies. But the cruelest blow was when Chloe posted a picture of her hand, Daniel's arm wrapped around her, Emma's wedding ring glittering on her sister's finger. The caption read, "Finally, where I belong." Emma stared at the screen until her vision blurred. Her whole body shook, but no tears came this time. She felt emptied out, like she had nothing left to give. She thought about smashing the phone. She thought about screaming until her throat gave out. Instead, she just placed it face down and lay back on Lisa's couch, staring at the ceiling. Her sister had stolen her husband, her home, her ring, her dignity, and the world was applauding her for it. Emma tried to stay invisible. She kept her head down, her voice low, and her presence small. But even as she shrank into the corners of Lisa's apartment, the rumors grew louder. Daniel was relentless. Every day he seemed to invent a new story about her. She never wanted kids. She only married me for money. She drove me into Chloe's arms with her coldness. The lies spread like wildfire. People Emma had once laughed with at dinners, shared secrets with, leaned on in hard times, now avoided her like she carried a disease. At the grocery store, she caught two women whispering behind her back. "That's her, isn't it? The one who lost her husband to her own sister. No wonder he left. Look at her. Pathetic." Emma felt the words like stones being thrown. She clutched the basket tighter, forcing herself not to cry in the middle of the aisle. By the time she returned to Lisa's, she was shaking again. She set the groceries on the counter, her hands trembling so badly that an apple rolled to the floor. Lisa bent to pick it up, but didn't look Emma in the eye. "Emma, maybe it's time you found somewhere else. Mark's been uncomfortable with you staying here. People are starting to talk." The words cut deep. Lisa had been her last refuge. Now even that was slipping away. Emma forced a small nod, her voice weak. "I understand." That night, she lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, her eyes wide and burning. She thought of Chloe's smile, Daniel's cold stare, her mother's sharp voice. She felt the walls closing in until it seemed there was no air left. Maybe they're right, she thought. Maybe I really am nothing. But Chloe wasn't finished. She wasn't content with just taking Emma's husband, her home, and her place in the family. She wanted more. She wanted everything. And Emma would soon learn just how ruthless her sister truly was. One evening, Emma forced herself to step outside, needing fresh air. She wandered the streets, her thoughts heavy, until she found herself near her parents' neighborhood. Against her better judgment, she stopped, standing in the shadows across the street from the house she'd grown up in. The living room lights were on. She could see figures moving inside. She knew she should walk away. But something, some desperate, fragile hope, kept her rooted in place. The window was cracked open. Voices drifted out. Chloe's voice. Emma's breath hitched. "She's weak," Chloe was saying. "She can't fight back. She doesn't have it in her." Then Margaret's voice, calm but sharp. "Emma's always been proud. It's in her nature. She'll come crawling back eventually." Chloe's laugh rang out, cruel and cutting. "No, she won't. She won't have the chance. I'll make sure of it. Once she's broken, I'll take everything that should have been hers. Daniel, the house, the money, the respect. And no one will remember Emma ever existed." Emma's hands flew to her mouth, the words stabbed into her like knives. Her own sister. Plotting not just to replace her, but to erase her. She leaned against the cold brick wall, fighting the urge to collapse. The betrayal was deeper than anything she had imagined. Her sister didn't just want Daniel. She wanted her life. She wanted Emma gone. Margaret's voice came again, softer this time. "And what about Emma? What if she fights back?" Chloe scoffed. "She won't. She's too broken. And even if she tries, no one will believe her. Everyone already sees her as the failed wife, the bitter sister. She's finished." The words echoed in Emma's head over and over. She's finished. She's finished. She's finished. Her stomach churned. She stumbled back into the shadows, her whole body trembling. The night air cut into her skin, but she barely felt it. She had never felt so small, so erased, so utterly alone. Her family, her husband, her own sister. They had not only betrayed her, but conspired to destroy her completely. Tears blurred her vision as she walked aimlessly into the dark. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the world itself was pressing down on her shoulders. She wanted to scream, to cry, to fight back, but all she could do was whisper into the night, her voice breaking. "They want me gone. They want me gone." And for the first time, Emma wondered if maybe they were right. But deep inside, beneath the grief and despair, something stirred. Not hope, not yet, but the faintest flicker of fire, because if Chloe wanted her erased, then Emma knew one thing for certain. She had to survive. The night swallowed her as she disappeared into the dark, carrying with her the unbearable weight of betrayal. and the first fragile spark of defiance. Emma had always believed she was strong. She worked hard, lived honestly, and carried herself with dignity. But strength isn't tested when life is easy. It's tested when everything you've built crumbles around you. And Emma's life was nothing but rubble now. Nights blurred into mornings, days passed like shadows. She wandered streets without direction, clutching her purse like a lifeline. She barely ate. She barely slept. The weight of betrayal pressed on her chest until even breathing felt like a battle. More than once she stood at the edge of a bridge, staring down at the dark water below. The thought whispered in her ear, "End it. End the pain. End the shame." Her mind replayed Daniel's cruel words. "You're not wanted here," her sister's sneer. "You're nothing," her mother's dismissal. "Stop embarrassing yourself." The voices echoed louder than her own heartbeat, and for a moment, Emma believed them. Maybe she was nothing. Maybe there was no point in going on. She gripped the cold railing, her tears dripping into the river below. Her body shook as her heart screamed for release. But then, a voice cut through the darkness. "Emma!" She spun around, startled. Standing a few feet away was a man she hadn't seen in years. Lucas. He had been Daniel's cousin once, though never close to him. Emma remembered him faintly from old family gatherings. Quiet, watchful, a man who never stayed long enough to be pulled into drama. Now, here he was, staring at her with concern. "Emma, is that you?" Her lips trembled. "Lucas." He stepped closer, his eyes searching her face. "What are you doing out here?" "You look—" He stopped, choosing his words carefully. "You look broken." Her chest caved in. The truth hurt more because it was real. "I am broken." He shook his head firmly. "No, not broken, wounded. There's a difference." She let out a bitter laugh. "What difference does it make?" "They've taken everything from me. Daniel, Chloe, my family, my home. They've taken my life, Lucas." He studied her for a moment, his gaze steady. Then he said words that pierced through her fog like sunlight. "They want you destroyed because they fear your strength. If you truly were nothing, Emma, they wouldn't fight so hard to erase you." Her breath caught. She stared at him, those words sinking deep. If you truly were nothing, they wouldn't fight so hard to erase you. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt something stir inside her. Not relief, not hope, but defiance. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her voice shaky but firm. "Then I can't let them win." Lucas nodded slowly. "Good. That's the Emma I remember." The next days were still heavy, but something had shifted. Emma no longer drifted like a ghost. She began to watch, to listen, to notice. She followed whispers about Daniel's business dealings. She dug into old files she had once ignored, and what she found made her blood boil. Bank transfers, documents signed in her name that she had never seen before, Chloe's handwriting on ledgers that didn't belong to her. Daniel and Chloe hadn't just stolen her marriage. They had stolen her money too, manipulated family assets, forged Emma's signature to funnel funds into accounts that Emma didn't even know existed. The betrayal cut deeper, but this time, Emma didn't crumble. She sharpened. She bought a cheap notebook and began writing everything down. Every rumor, every bank slip, every screenshot she could gather. She built a case quietly, piece by piece, while pretending to the outside world that she was still broken, still defeated. It wasn't easy. With no house, no income, and few friends left, Emma had to survive. She found small jobs, cleaning offices at night, waiting tables at a diner, folding clothes at a laundromat. People whispered. Some mocked her outright. From Daniel's wife to scrubbing floors. No wonder he left. Look at her now. Each word was a knife. But instead of collapsing, Emma let the pain fuel her. With every insult, her determination grew stronger. She saved what little she could, She stopped caring about appearances. While Chloe flaunted her stolen life online, posting pictures in Emma's old dresses, laughing beside Daniel in Emma's kitchen, Emma was building quietly in the shadows. She was no longer the Emma who cried on curbs, begging her mother for comfort. That Emma had died. A new Emma was forming, piece by piece, scar by scar. Weeks later, Lucas found her again. They met at a small coffee shop, tucked away from the places Daniel and Chloe's circle might haunt. "You look different," Lucas said, watching her sip her coffee. Emma raised a brow. "Different how?" "Stronger. Sharper," she almost smiled. "I don't feel strong." He leaned forward. "That's because strength doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like carrying stones up a mountain. Painful, heavy. But it changes you. Makes you unshakable." Emma's eyes burned, but this time it wasn't just grief. It was something fiercer. "Then let them try to bury me. I'll dig myself out." Lucas smiled faintly. "That's the Emma I was hoping to see." Her chance came sooner than she expected. Her family planned a gathering, a birthday dinner for her mother, Margaret. Emma wasn't invited, of course, but she went anyway, standing at a distance in the rain, watching through the window as her family gathered around Chloe and Daniel. She saw Chloe glowing in the center of attention, Daniel at her side, Margaret beaming with pride. They toasted with glasses of wine, laughter spilling into the night. And then Chloe rose from her chair, her hand resting delicately on her stomach. "I have an announcement," she said, her voice sweet, carrying even through the glass. "Daniel and I are expecting." The room erupted in cheers. Margaret cried tears of joy. Family members hugged Chloe, congratulating her as though she had won the highest honor. Emma stood outside in the rain, her body trembling. Her heart cracked again, raw and aching. Her sister was not only stealing her husband but now carrying his child, the final nail in the coffin of Emma's old life. The family celebrated inside, while outside Emma stood soaked to the bone, unseen, unwanted, forgotten. She pressed her hand against the cold glass, her tears mixing with the rain. For a moment, she felt the weight of despair crush her again. But then, something shifted. The pain didn't break her this time. It hardened her. She whispered to herself through clenched teeth, "If they want war, I'll give them war." Her reflection in the window stared back at her. Not the broken Emma, but the one being reborn. Emma turned away from the glowing room, walking into the dark night. She had no applause, no family, no support. But she had something far more dangerous. A plan. And for the first time, the fire in her chest burned brighter than her grief. The night was warm, but the air inside the grand house was heavy with perfume, chatter, and smug laughter. The chandeliers sparkled as if even they were celebrating Chloe's triumph. The walls, once Emma's sanctuary, now belonged to her sister and Daniel, the betrayers who had built their new life on the ruins of her old one. The occasion, Chloe and Daniel's engagement celebration, a final slap in the face after Emma's divorce had been pushed through with ruthless efficiency. Guests filled the rooms, dressed in their finest clothes. Glasses clinked, voices rose, and everyone seemed eager to sing praises for Chloe and Daniel. She's everything Emma never was. Finally, Daniel has the woman he deserves. Chloe has done the family proud. The words sliced through the air like poisoned arrows. Margaret stood tall among them, smiling as if she hadn't disowned her eldest daughter, as if she hadn't mocked Emma's pain. Tonight, Margaret shone with pride, introducing Chloe and Daniel as though they were royalty. The guests applauded, the family beamed. And in the middle of it all, Chloe glowed in Emma's stolen dress, an ivory gown that Emma herself had bought years ago for a special anniversary that never came. Daniel stood at her side, smug and self-satisfied, his hand resting on Chloe's as though Emma had never existed. It was their night, their stage, their victory, until the doors opened. The sound was soft at first, barely noticed. Then all heads turned. The chatter fell into silence. The room froze. Emma stepped in. She wasn't the broken woman they had last seen. She wasn't the weeping exile, the desperate outcast. She was radiant, dressed in a deep crimson gown that hugged her figure with quiet strength. Her hair swept up, her eyes clear and unyielding. She carried herself with poise, her steps slow and deliberate, as though she owned the ground beneath her feet. The hush that followed was electric. Chloe's smile faltered. Daniel's jaw clenched. Margaret's face drained of colour. Emma stopped at the centre of the room, her gaze steady, her voice calm. "Don't stop on my account. This is a celebration, isn't it?" The crowd stirred uneasily. A few whispers rippled through the silence. Chloe forced a laugh, her tone high and sharp. "Emma, I didn't realize you'd be joining us tonight." Emma's lips curved slightly. "I wasn't invited. But I thought, why not stop by? After all, this was my house once." The words stung. Chloe's grip on Daniel's hand tightened. Daniel shifted, trying to regain control. "You shouldn't be here, Emma. This isn't your place anymore." Emma tilted her head. "Isn't it? Funny. I think it's still very much mine." And then she moved. Calmly, confidently, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small flash. "Drive." She walked to the projector set up for the evening's slideshow of Chloe and Daniel's journey of love. Without asking permission, without hesitation, she plugged it in. The screen flickered, the room darkened, and the truth began to play. At first, it was only audio. Daniel's voice, unmistakable, dripping with arrogance. "She's useless as a wife, worthless as a woman. I only kept her around because she was too dumb to know better." Gasps erupted across the room. Guests glanced at one another in shock. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. Then Chloe's laugh followed, cruel and mocking. "I told you she'd never keep a man. She acts like she's better than us, but we both know the truth." The sound echoed in the silence, each word a knife. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Whispers grew louder. On the screen, images appeared. Secret recordings of Daniel and Chloe in the bedroom, mocking Emma, tearing her apart behind closed doors. "She's nothing. She'll never fight back. She was just a mistake." The laughter that followed burned the room like fire. Emma didn't move. She stood tall, her eyes fixed on Chloe and Daniel as the weight of their cruelty filled the space for everyone to witness. Chloe's face paled. Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Turn that off. This is a lie." But Emma didn't flinch. Her hand rested calmly on the remote. The video shifted. Another clip. This time, Daniel's voice again. Only he wasn't talking to Chloe. He was talking to another woman entirely. "Chloe thinks she won, but she's nothing to me. Just convenient until someone better comes along." The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, disbelief. Chloe staggered back, her hand falling from Daniel's arm. Her face crumbled as the truth sank in. She was never the prize. She was just the placeholder. The guests turned their eyes on her now, judgment heavy in their stares. The triumph in her posture dissolved into desperation. Daniel cursed, his voice shaking. "That's out of context. She's twisting everything." But Emma cut him off with a raised hand. Her voice was sharp and steady. "I'm not finished." The next slide appeared. Bank statements, forged documents, financial records. Emma's voice carried across the room, cold and clear. "Here is proof of Daniel's embezzlement. Money funneled from joint accounts. My signature forged on documents I never saw. And Chloe..." She turned to her sister, her eyes narrowing. "You didn't just steal my husband. You stole from your own family. These are the ledgers you falsified. These are the assets you hid. You thought no one would notice. But I did." The silence was deafening. Faces turned toward Chloe, disbelief and disgust painted across them. Margaret's voice cracked, trembling. "Chloe, is this true?" Chloe shook her head violently, her voice shrill. "No! She's lying! She's making this up to ruin me!" But Emma wasn't alone. At that moment, a man in a suit stepped forward. A lawyer, calm and precise. He held up a folder. "These are legal filings. As of this morning, lawsuits have been placed against Daniel and Chloe for fraud and theft. Evidence has already been submitted to the courts." The room exploded in chaos. Guests shouted, some stepping back as if the accused carried a contagion. Chloe's friends slipped away quietly, unwilling to be tainted by the scandal. Margaret swayed on her feet, her face stricken as the daughter she had favored stood exposed as a thief and liar. Daniel lunged toward Emma, his face twisted with rage. "You think this changes anything? You think you can destroy me?" But before he could reach her, 2 security guards, hired by Emma, stepped forward, blocking his path. They grabbed his arms, forcing him back. His shouts filled the room, but his power had evaporated. For the first time, Daniel looked like what he truly was: small, desperate, cornered. Chloe collapsed into a chair, sobbing, her mascara streaking down her face. The woman who had strutted in Emma's stolen life was now crumbling before everyone. Emma waited for the noise to die down. Then she stepped forward, her gaze locked on her sister. Her voice was calm, almost quiet, but every word carried. "You wanted my life so badly that you destroyed me for it. You thought you could erase me, replace me, mock me, but now you see what you've really earned. Ruin, shame, loneliness. That's all you'll ever have." The room was silent, the words hanging heavy in the air. Emma turned to Daniel next. "And you thought I was nothing. But it seems it's you who has nothing now." His eyes burned with hatred, but he had no power left. Emma let the silence stretch. Then she drew in a steady breath, lifted her chin, and said her final words. "I don't need revenge. I don't need your love. I don't even need your forgiveness. I have myself, and that's enough." With that, she turned. Lucas was waiting by the doorway, steady and silent. Not her savior, but her witness. Her quiet reminder that she was not alone in her strength. Emma walked out, her heels clicking against the floor, her gown flowing behind her. She didn't look back. Behind her, chaos reigned. Chloe sobbed into her hands. Daniel shouted until his voice cracked. Margaret wept, finally seeing the truth she had chosen to ignore. Neighbors whispered, family members condemned, reputations crumbled. But Emma, she was free. She stepped into the night air, the cool breeze brushing her skin. She inhaled deeply, her chest lighter than it had been in years. She wasn't the broken woman who once stood outside in the rain, forgotten and erased. She was the woman who had faced betrayal, endured humiliation, and risen stronger than them all. Her story wasn't of revenge, it was of reclamation. Betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those you call family. But truth has a way of burning, through lies. The same hands that tried to bury you will one day dig their own graves. Emma rose not by revenge alone, but by reclaiming her worth. And with that, Emma walked into her new life, not defined by pain, not chained by betrayal, but carried by her own strength. Unbroken, unstoppable, unforgettable.